Personality is a makeup of not just the genetic, constitutional or social factors, it has a core competency development of traits based on the cultural, psychological and significant traumatic experiences an individual faces in their lives. These experiences that they tend to face in life can give them a welcoming or an unwelcoming situation. Out of all the factors from genetic to traumatic experiences, an individual's family and the parental influences stand strong towards learning and developing traits, and it influences them greatly. Today we will understand about cultural and psychological factors and significant and traumatic experiences which influences personality. The way parents behave with the child, how much they are allowed to socialize, the kind of culture they are subjected and the emotional makeup of their parents, all these have a greater bearing on the child's mental growth. In early childhood, all children ape their parents' mannerisms. Thus, parents can become good role models to their children grown with idealistic behavior to lead themselves for their growth and development. Culture and physical environment factors influencing personality. Since culture pervades every aspect of our lives, the number of cultural factors that we might examine in the study of personality is quite large. However, there are a few major factors that stand out like physical, environmental, religion, race, gender, ethnicity, and that have been the subject of significant research in the field of psychology. Physical environment. Another important feature that affects personality is the physical environment, as it determines the complete body and behavioral structure of an individual and characterizing the indigenous features of one's identity and recognition. These features are much to do with the environmental factors, which include land, river, mountains, hills, forest, plain area, atmosphere in describing a person with not just physical appearance but also in their mannerism. The effect on the personality can be good or bad, healthy or weak, powerful or submissive. All the feelings, emotions, ideas, attitudes, habits and behavior as well as body structure is the result of physical environment to which an individual belongs. Both material as well as non-material culture affects personality of an individual as they live in his or her culture and adopt the traits consciously or unconsciously and act accordingly. Culture of any society determines the behaviors and personality of an individual, and he or she is expected to act according to the culture. A person follows all the social norms of a culture, which results in the formation of good personality, while non-conformity to the cultural rules develops abnormal or negativity. So, the culture in which an individual seeks satisfaction, adjust himself, herself and adapt the environment. You happen to see and observe many things around that make or that can make you to get an impression on that object or person. If you have ever observed this phenomena as how your children responds and greets when someone comes home, do they shake hand, bow front or close palms together saying namaste, sit beside and interact with them, just say hi and leave to their rooms, or just ignore the visitor and leave? If they do any of these, they are under an influence of culture where a child has brought up in a home. Behavior is a result of social learning processes transforming into culture. It evolves around a person creating an attitude. Thus, we might also associate this behavior even with the acquaintances with the person who has visited. Yet, a basic behavior is definitely identified. Similarly, if a parent creates a culture where all the family members sit and consume alcohol, can impact the behavior to continue the same behavior in family. This can be an example for both family influence on children as well as the custom that has initiated and followed by the members. Another example for culture would be whenever a child who comes from the rural background and cannot match up with the urban crowd might be facing a lot of discrimination due to a culture clash. Or whenever you visit to a foreign country, you might take time to adapt to their culture. Culture has a greater role in developing traits in an individual. It also depends on how the individual has been bounded with culture, customs and traditions. These cultural factors play an important role in defending their personality, as they are always an interaction with societal norms and expectations. We often hear that these are not accepted in our culture and in our families. What are these? There is a lot of apprehension about the cultural influence on the individual. If you live in an apartment, you must be witnessing the families belongs to different cultures, and every culture has been designated with few do's and don'ts influencing our personality. Challenging a set of ethical and moral values, beliefs and norms which considerably shapes our behavior and thought. In addition, there is always a conflict between the culture and individual's thought, needs, desires, with agreement and disagreement. They have their roles, and thus it defines them to do certain tasks. Like in an Indian culture, women are expected to take care of family and children and are given no financial independence, whereas men are considered to be the head of the family and bread earners of the family, and if there is a transgender in the family, they consider them to be a disgrace and defame the family. Yet a lot of advocacy is being initiated in helping to change the culture and ensuring protection, not just to building the relationship acceptable to community, but for psychological well-being. Cross-cultural studies have pointed out the importance of cultural environment in shaping our personality. It opens up the diversity and integrity towards their mental health and social well-being. Individuals of certain culture are more generous, open-hearted and warm, whereas individuals of some other culture are suspicious, introvert and self-centered. An average American are more achievement oriented when compared to an average Indian. Similarly, it has also been found that certain cultural communities are more prone to development of certain abnormal behaviors as compared to others, probably due to the influence of geographical, dietary, hormonal or genetic influence within that community. Many psychological traits are also influenced by the culture to which one belongs. Latin American or Danish children are less inhibited as compared to an average Asian child. Several psychological factors tend to determine the development of personality. Among those factors, the following can be especially discussed because of their importance. These include psychological factors, intellectual determinants, emotional determinants, self-disclosure, aspiration and achievements. Intellectual determinants and elements like intelligence, memory, logical reasoning, creativity, problem solving, etc., play an important role in developing personality, as they are considered to be the abilities that help an individual to adjust, accommodate themselves in their life. Intellectually smart individuals show better personal and social adjustments than those of average or below average intellectual capacities. Similarly, highly or superior intellectual capacities will lead to maladjustment, as it affects their personality not in their favor, constantly creating problems. In general, thoughtfulness, creative ideas, adventurous conscientiousness can bind values and morality in developing personality, which is seen as important factors towards positive attitude. Emotional determinants. Another important element shaping the personality is emotion, which affect their personal and social adjustment. Most researchers have presented emotional components and temperaments of an individual having several aspects of dominant emotions like joy, jealous, hatred, anger, love, fear, anxiety, depression, disgust in developing personality. They are stirred up and varies in quantity as well as quality. These emotional balance, emotional deprivation, excessive love and affection, emotional expressions, emotional stress can be an outcome of different experiences and predisposing factors affecting personality. People who experience pleasant emotions will be cheerful, happy, and see hope in unfavorable situations, whereas people who tend to experience unpleasant emotions would be more apprehensive, fearful, and would remain pessimistic and unhappy in good and positive situations. Similarly, balancing emotions is very crucial for social and personal well-being. When the person encounters with obstacles and problems, unpleasant experiences like fear, anger, envy, and other negative emotions are aroused. As a consequence, the person's adjustments are adversely affected. Such conditions in the long run are responsible for development of many pathological traits in the person. Also, emotional deprivation of pleasant emotions like love, happiness, and curiosity also has an impact, which gradually leads to poor personal and social adjustment. According to researchers, emotional deprivation is another important factor in which, if a person is deprived of love, affection, guidance in certain ages, will also affect the personality. In such cases, the adult outcome can be very demanding, dominating, and self-centered development of personality. Similarly, when someone is provided with excessive love, attention, affection can affect them psychologically, leading them to overprotective environment, making them dependent. Sigmund Freud had earlier cautioned that too much parental love and affection awakens a disposition for neurotic disorders, spoils the child, and makes the individual a problematic adolescent. Streicher in 1956 has pointed out the excessive mothering, that is, overprotective mothers turn their sons and daughters into immature and dependent adults. In addition, we often hear that one has to express emotions at the right time so that it would not disturb one's morale. Yet, many times people keep up their emotions without expressing. The outbursts of such mounted up emotions can spoil interpersonal relationships, leaving people in distress, making their lives miserable. Self-disclosure. In many cases, even self-disclosure can help a person to bring about a healthy personality array for a socially desirable and favorable reactions for external environment. Emotional stress expressed in the form of anxiety, frustration, jealous, and envy also affect the development of personality. Intense emotional stress may motivate the person to go to surpluses in hope of being revealed or relieved from it. Aspirations and achievements. Aspirations are desired goals which helps build capacities in an individual which can play a key role in making up self-esteem. And it is observed by many psychologists that individuals with self-esteem which is low are more adversely affected by emotional stress than those with high self-esteem. Every individual have a desire to achieve more in their life and would like to be successful. This concept is more inclined with the ego satisfaction, and thus they set goals higher so as to feel pride and assert themselves stronger. This desire for achievement or aspiration is directly related to the capacity of the individual. Positive and realistic aspirants realize their potential and start working accordingly to the aspirations to become more successful in a realistic sense. Similarly, individuals with negative aspiration realize and work beyond their ability and aspire highly and unrealistically, encouraging hardship. In contrary, those few who do not have neither aspirations nor achievement oriented are perplexed and tend to become complacent over the period of time. These aspirations are considered weaker, stronger in motivating strength to achieve or lose. One's success is always estimated, measured and evaluated by different means, and thus it is comparing and competing by others' potential or performance affecting one's personality. Greater the success, higher is the satisfaction, is commonly attributed to successful people, but it is also observed that individuals with great successes are mostly unsatisfied and are always in the search for a new achievement. When a person meets success in their path, they would always have adequate self-concept by dealing their lives. But it also identified that every individual set goals to achieve and manifest their thoughts, desires and aspiration in the process of their self-actualization. Few significant and traumatic experiences. Our life is full of experiences, good or bad, better or bitter, happy or sad. Our everyday activities are determined by our actions followed by reasons. Every action has a motive behind it. There are few significant events or incidents in our life that completely changes our lives or living pattern, affecting our lifestyle and personality. Every individual will face both ill and well experiences, but the one who can confront and resolve the problems would come out of them and can lead their lives more successfully. But in some cases, we happen to encounter different situations or difficult situations where we are surrounded with people and situations with different kinds of thoughts, ideologies and belief system entrapped in them, getting difficult for everyone to adjust in the environment, which can affect them adversely on their mental health and well-being, leaving them in trauma. Every situation in our life play an important role, and they can facilitate or hinder one's personality development in a positive or negative way. Our parenting style, culture and cognitive factors are connected as they are influenced in a stronger way on the behavioral factors, and thus they force us to act in a situation accordingly. These emotional disruptions can act very negatively on their intellectual abilities, like concentrating in classroom activities, play activities, affecting personality, making them scared, fearful, withdrawn, submissive and insecure. Similarly, people grow and develop with great difficulties. We either sympathize or apathize them, but the trauma that they would face stressing to adjust, adopt or accept are very critical. For instance, in such cases, where children who have been abandoned by their parents, a sudden accident leaving someone with physical challenges, birth abnormalities, physical challenges, chronic or terminal illnesses, sudden death of the parent, children, loved ones, a rigid teacher in class humiliating the students, a dominating boss in the office, a bullying peer, or single parental love, children and women trafficked and rescued, prisoners and their families. Family conflicts are few more examples that can bring greater challenges and behavioral changes. Many struggle to cope with situations, and mostly people are successful in one nor the other in keeping up their well-being, but there are greater challenges that might slow down their self-development. In contrary, marriage, a birth of a child, new job, new ventures cannot be escaped by most, and these can also play an important role in their life. A lot of adjustments need to be made in developing relationships and maintaining them progressively. A bad marriage can affect a person's life as they are all linked to their personal development. One's socio-economic status also plays an important role in life for fulfilling their dreams and desires. The greatest number of times a person compromises their whims will make them aggressive and frustrated. Lack of social support can reduce opportunities, which can lead distress, and the struggle to achieving those will be more stressful. And in few critical cases, like any kind of illness or disease and career settlements, the financial stability would be the priority, and if not addressed at the right time, can make it more vulnerable. In most domestic violence cases, children who were exposed to continuous conflict and in situations like the incidents of rape and acid attack are so traumatic that it can completely leave a person in psychological trauma. Such incidents will imprint so strongly in their memory, and getting back to normal conditions seems to be very difficult. Individuals who live on the coastal areas are another example for trauma, as they are always in threat of cyclone or any other natural disaster. People who live in the conflict war zone will be affected by the man-made disasters, leaving them in trauma as they are continuously exposed to bombing, firing, and live in insecurity that indeed affects their emotions and overall personality. The case study: the experiences of Haitian evacuees, pre and post earthquake. The Haitian people are resilient and possess the capacity to navigate social, cultural, and physical resources that sustain their well-being while living under stressful life conditions. Haitians draw strength from their strong religious beliefs, cultural and family traditions, and a deep sense of community. Haitians allow themselves to see life through a positive lens. Collectively, most families support each other and negotiate their way to experience their culture in meaningful ways. However, years of conflict and political instability, chronic stress from extreme poverty and violence in the streets have contributed to ongoing trauma and the suffering of families and their children. The earthquake disaster of 2010 compounded an already troubling situation for many Haitians. Nearly 2 lakh or more individuals died in the earthquake. Thousands were left without homes, displaced, and many were injured. Although life for most Haitians prior to the earthquake was characterized by deep poverty, food insecurity, political instability, mudslides, and hurricanes. The earthquake created situations that were far beyond the usual range of events these children and their families generally encountered. The earthquake exacerbated existing vulnerabilities for Haitian children. high rates of illiteracy, infant mortality, and extreme poverty. The Haitian earthquakes left millions without basic necessities and led to the loss of loved ones, home, churches, and schools. Many Haitians have relocated to the US, coming to the country and new routines, a different culture, and unfamiliar neighborhood. So, these are few examples that we can talk about, or the cases that we can discuss about how culture, how social, and how the political issues that can be running around on developing a person's personality, especially in developing a lot of trauma and its influence on the behavior of an individual. Now, let us summarize the entire personality and its influence. Personality is an outcome of such cultural, social, and overall perceptions of our environment. The more conflicted the disposition in every stage of the individual's life, the less the growth and the development. Culture of any society determines the behaviors and personality of an individual, and he or she is expected to act according to the culture. Language, religion, region, gender, race, customs, traditions, physical environment, etc. plays an important role in molding personality. Psychological factors like intellectual determinants, emotional determinants, self-disclosure, aspirations, achievements, and significant traumatic determinants like personal experiences and situational experiences also leads a person to develop positive or negative personality. Trauma is an experience of any situation that has led the person into a emotional and painful distress that affects their physical and mental health. According to psychologists, the kind of parenting, family structure are responsible for developing few traits that can inhibit or encourage the individual to achieve or fail tasks necessary for their development. Thus, the free flow of developing one's self-concept lies in the adjustment made in the surroundings for mental, physical, social, emotional well-being.